This is the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast, session number 351. Nathan Gist on Scaling Beyond Success.
Welcome to the Work Smart Hypnosis Podcast with Jason Linett, your professional resource for hypnosis training and outstanding business success. Here's your host, Jason Linett.
Welcome back to the program, and welcome back to Nathan Gist, who is here for part 2 of our conversation. As we were approaching the rather big episode number of 350, I had it in my mind that I wanted to invite Nathan on here to tell his story and have people benefit from the inspiration in terms of what he has created in his career as a hypnotist. So I'll do something a little counterintuitive here, and with an asterisk to this next statement tell you, don't listen to this episode. The reason I say that is if you haven't yet heard last week's episode, number 350, Nathan Gist on the Hypnotic Hero's Journey, it would make sense to start there because this was really one long conversation that we cropped down the middle, and you're about to listen to the second part of it. And trust me, the second part makes a whole lot more sense if you've heard the first part. But to kind of give you the play-by-play, episode number 1 last week was the one that was a little bit more of his personal story about sort of the balance of his career, how he got into hypnosis, how it is a balance in terms of another career that he has. This week's episode is a little bit more deeper dive into the success that he's created inside of his business by speaking to a very specific audience of clientele that he was excited to work with. The nature of how during one of the worst economies that our country and our world has ever seen, business was running strong, and get this, without much effort to actually make that come in. And this is a vital conversation, by the way, because the reality is we begin actively running our business. And it's this bell curve that occurs over time where eventually the marketing systems now have taken place. We have a flow of referral sources and client testimonials, and we get to a place where, technically speaking, the business really runs itself. I mean, I'd call out that's part of my story as well, that since about 2016, I really stopped doing a lot of active marketing for the Virginia Hypnosis brand. Then in 2018 and 19, when we moved the office, it kind of made sense to update the videos. There were some algorithm changes on Google, so we refreshed the website. But really, since about 2019 onward, other than changing from Velvet Rope as a free offer that people who know that, over to VIP Paid, which is a paid deposit to get on a call with me, the sort of meat of the website remained the same. And really, when the world kind of stopped in March of 2020, and we teach this inside of Hypnotic Business Systems, I plugged in a very simple Facebook marketing strategy, which then had everything up to full blast, even more clients than I was seeing prior to that. This is an episode about Nathan. So I tell this, though, because that's the thing that I did to run the business stronger during a specific point where people clearly needed the service. And let me say this politely, here's the guy who technically I taught who didn't have to do that stuff, and the clients were still coming in. Student surpasses the teacher, my friends. So you're going to hear the part 2 of Nathan's entire story and how one of the big things we talk about, we called this episode Scaling Beyond Success, because behind the scenes, Nathan and I have quite a bit in common of having families at about the same age and the same kids along the way. How it's not just about creating success in our own personal and professional lives. It's really about creating that balance. And Nathan's one of those people who I look up to in terms of how he does that as well. So I look at him as a model. The goal of any decent training is not to just have the instructor up on the platform and everyone seated at the feet pointing and saying, look how great they are. The goal of an instructor, the goal of training should be to elevate everybody so we all grow together. So I'll say it here. Nathan began as someone who was signing up for my courses and taking my trainings, and I'm not going to make this episode series the moment of saying, look what I made him into. No, he came in ready to go. He dove in head first. He made it work. And I wanted to have him on this podcast on these special 2 episodes for you all to see the reason I respect the hell out of what he's doing. To learn more about Nathan and to get the links to other episodes we reference in this conversation, head over to worksmarthypnosis.com/351. That'll bring you over to the show notes of this episode. And while you're there too, check out the events we talk about in this conversation. If you're listening to this in November 2021, as this episode drops, we have our next Work Smart Hypnosis Live, an online training happening in January of 2022. If you're listening to this long after the fact, we usually have one coming up anyway. So either way, head over to worksmarthypnosislive.com so you can see exactly how that training is scheduled out and how we do it as a hybrid online live practice event. In addition to that, I think this is the episode in the series where Nathan drops the fact that Hypnotic Business Systems, my program which teaches how to run a successful hypnosis business and even gives you some of the assets to get up and running even faster. Here's how far we go back. That was originally a 2-day event called Hypnosis Business Bootcamp. And Nathan was in the room when we filmed that. That, by the way, is where the purple came from. I wore the same clothes on both days because when I filmed the original video product, I didn't know if the order that I filmed it would become the order that we released it. So I wore the same clothes both days. A web designer pulled the shade of purple, made it the design of my website, so we can thank her. That's where the purple came from. And Nathan was in the room when it happened. So check out hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. This is where you get roadmaps to success, frameworks that have actually been proven to be successful. And again, marketing assets you can slap your name on to get up and running even sooner. If you've been struggling to put out videos, you get the frameworks and even the transcripts of mine. If you want to have email opt-in offers to have the business running for you even while you're asleep, if you want to have a high-value audio product that you can sell, I just give you the rights to reproduce one of mine. Those are some of the bonuses inside of Hypnotic Business Systems. So check out hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. A huge thank you to everybody for sticking with us for these almost 8 years. And technically speaking, we've had a few bonus episodes along the way. But I'm the one who gets to choose the episode numbers and titles, so that's why last week was 350. And here we go. This is episode number 351, Nathan Gist on Scaling Beyond Success. Nathan, there's something you mentioned last week, which for those of you who haven't heard last week's, go back and then join us here live once again. I want to hear from you this story of getting the business up and running, and then here came March of 2020.
Yeah, that was quite the adventure. Getting the business up and running, it was in the beginning, straight up hustle. Right? The stuff that I learned from you, the stuff that I learned from, the Better Business Boot Camp at the time.
Oh,
you had your cheesy camouflage logo.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were there for that. Yeah, well,
I was there for that. I paid you before you even built the thing.
Did I tell you the real history of that? I know we just asked you an amazing question that you haven't yet answered, but I'll speak to that for a moment. That event, the reason why all of you know me now was because there was someone in our area who said I took this other training. They didn't teach any business. And I felt like they pulled the rug out because they promised they would. And then they didn't teach any business. And I went, well, I can teach a business class. So I put together this thing called Hypnosis Business Bootcamp and promoted it. And guess who didn't sign up? The one person who asked for it.
No.
And then over the years, Hypnotic Business Systems became a better name for it. It originally was linear, like start here, finish there, and it became a better program as Choose Your Own Adventure. I only tell the story now because you're here and you were in the room when we filmed the original version, which is where, by the way, the purple comes from. I wore the same suit both days because I didn't know if I was going to put the videos in the same order that I shot it. And my designer pulled the purple from the tie. And we're streaming this in the Facebook group right now, but also recording it as the audio. And here's my phone. Here's my Apple EarPod case. There's my laptop. Pandemic. There's the mask. Yeah, so that's where the purple came from.
Well, and I think
the person who requested it did finally join the program like 6 months ago, though. So there's the button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember you were talking about one time at HypnoThoughts that you were walking around and somebody went to somebody else and they were wearing purple. And they're like, does Jason know you have that?
Yeah, Mike Mandel and Chris Thompson gave shirts to all their people and the shirts were purple. And like someone's comment was, is Jason okay with this? And like they were giving the shirts away for free. So I said to like Mike and Chris, just tell them I get half the proceeds.
Nice.
Because they were free. So here came last year where everything began to change. How did you respond in sort of the running of your business and continuing to serve your clients?
Yeah, a lot of it turned online. And so thankfully I had seen a couple folks online for some things the previous year. And so I become more and more familiar with that process. So immediately I jumped in, and I got to admit, I mean, I was nervous in some ways because I really like being in the room with somebody, right? It's those little subtleties that show up. It's also getting them out of their comfort zone and into another place where, you get to kind of have more free conversation. There's not the dog walking in or, the mail's being delivered or whatever. But that was the biggest thing. I just began to work in that way. Thankfully, too, in my office, there's this big, huge boardroom. And so there's a huge table that's 10, 12 feet. And so for some clients, I would see them at one side of the table and they'd be on the other side of the table. But, you adapted however needed to be done to get it done.
I'm realizing I don't think I've told this story here, that in the office, the final office that was in Virginia, I eventually started using like a headset system that I'd heard Sheila Granger talk about it for years. I heard Richard Nongard talk about it, James Hazelrig and Mark Carlin talk about it, and Ken Guzzo. And finally it was, all right. So I had headphones on the clients. I had headphones on me for those of you inside of Hypnotic Workers. I give a full tour and shopping list of what I had bought. That system was purchased, by the way, by Bob Martell. And because of that, though, I eventually, and this became a gag when I would see a few clients in the office then, which was that I bought an extra 15-foot sound cable. And the line was, oh, and by the way, for the whole physical distancing thing, and then I'd slide my chair back 15 feet.
Yeah.
So you found a way to kind of make it work. Were there people that you had to then pivot from in person to online, or how did you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I got to admit, like it really wasn't that bad. And even the people that I did see on a regular basis, I mean, I had mask on, they had a mask on, and like, I'll put it this way, I don't get that close to my clients. Like, and even when it came to the social distancing, I'm like, I don't even have to shake hands with people anymore. Cool. And so it was, hey, how are you? Here's your chair. Here's mine. I'll sit down and we'll go through the process together. It definitely made me think a lot more about the online products as well. I mean, that's something that I see very beneficial, because I know right now, especially right now, when it comes to healthcare, they are overwhelmed. Like in our area, there are waiting lists to get into psychologists and counselors for like 2-3 months. And so when people have that, they're looking around thinking, okay, who can I talk with? And even though I'm not a doctor, I don't even play one on TV, we can still help them to work out some of these issues, hopefully before they go in, and work with those folks as well.
And I like the way that you brought that up in the episode last week, and the theme, here in terms of fitting into that service model, not necessarily replacing, definitely staying inside of our own lane, but the ability to have the option that's out there. And what you just hit on there was really where a lot of our thoughts need to go, is that, yes, we're running a business, but the sale is providing a service that produces an outcome.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's a major shift that a lot of people, especially in our community, really need to hear. You brought up hypnotic business systems. The early stages of that, like the opening 45 minutes, was all about inoculating, hey, it's okay to earn a living. Hey, it's okay to earn money. I mean, the first 5 minutes or so, I think, of the HypnoThoughts Live keynote a couple of years ago was all about, bad reference here, savior syndrome, that because I'm helping someone, how dare I charge? And honestly, I'm happy that there's people now like Richard Nongard doing a business training, Helen Midas doing a business training, and some of the others, that there's enough of us now having that conversation, which has made it so we don't have to inoculate that. But to go inside of your messaging and go, this is my internal dialogue. How dare I not make it easy for people to find this opportunity?
Well said. Well said. Yeah.
So then what kind of, as we're now, seeing the end of the light of the tunnel here, how are things coming back? How are things progressing moving forward then?
It's been good. And I kind of talked about earlier, I had to almost apologize to you because I'm in your programs, I do your programs. But for the last 2 years, like I haven't done any marketing. And it's going really well. The last 2 years have been record breaking. And I think part of that is because of that foundational work that was done in the beginning. There's a reputation now. There's the websites, there's the videos, there's the testimonials. I mean, if you type in Fredericksburg Hypnosis, you're going to see my name. And the reason for that is because that's been established, and I've been working that ever since. Now, the most important thing to get to, and I think a lot of people need to get this, is that the sexy stuff you talk about, right? Like all the marketing and this and that, there's the flash in the pan kind of stuff. That's very important, but the simmer is just as important for the flavor. You got to make sure that you are delivering a product that is getting the results that you need to get. You need to be in this, not just for the money that you are making, which is incredibly important, part of your business, but also because you're getting the results out of the people. And if your heart is in that, if you're there to make that difference, it's going to shine through. Learn the techniques you're going to learn. And what is it, Bruce Lee, who was like, I don't fear a man who knows 10,000 punches and kicks. I fear the man who has done one kick 10,000 pounds or 10,000 times. And so get really good at what you do, get great results, and people will start talking about it. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're saying cool stuff. Keep going.
I joke with people all the time, and it's an honest truth. I have a horrible business model. Horrible. Like I see clients between 3 and 4 sessions, and then that's it. I mean, at least you're selling products to them. I'm still developing the products. But the reason that it's successful is because I get good results. And that's because every single client is the only client that I have in that moment. And I'm not thinking about, okay, who's the next one? How much in this? And how much more time do I got? Give them what they need, get them the results they want. And I'm telling you, the money will come from it too.
Well, right there is the perfect illustration of how we need to think about it, that we do some of that more difficult work earlier on so that then it begins to take care of itself.
Yes, sir.
To watch like America's Got Talent, having been previously in the entertainment and even, magic world, there are people in a comedy junkie. I fall asleep if there's music in my car. By watching it, suddenly here's the person who the line is, it took them 30 years to become the overnight success.
Correct. 30-year overnight success. Absolutely. Yeah.
That here comes that.
And we forget, right? We forget the mind-numbing hours they spent researching and practicing and going over and over and over. And then we see that finished product and we're like, that gets me too. You're so talented, or you're right, or you're just lucky, you're blessed with that, or whatever. And I'm like, you have no idea what I've had to go through to get to this point.
There's a mentalist by the name of Mark Salem, and he has a line of, what was it? It took me 40 years to do it badly.
Yeah.
No, but that's a cool moment to begin to harness, and that's the whole systems mindset. Once Virginia Hypnosis was up and running, and then here was this massive digital footprint of videos and reviews online and past clients, and my past clients, doctors, that's an episode from a while ago, medical networking made easy. But the opportunity where now all these things were funneling everything in. When people look at the volume of what I do, 2 different podcasts, the training events, and keeping active within groups. And last year we took a training you had come to before of Work Smart NLP and morphed that now into the influence community. And the line from someone was, of course you're putting out something new. It's like, well, it's something that I've already been doing. But the only reason I could do that was because we found the groove of Work Smart Hypnosis. Here's how the podcast gets scheduled. Here's what fills up the events. Here's how we do all the other pieces. And there may be more either hustle or willingness just to throw things out there. But I say, no, that's not something to apologize for, because still that's a pretty significant capacity that you're pulling off right now, even without the marketing and advertising. And as someone who often does the Mr. Burns fingers, it brings about the question of what's going to be different when you turn those machines on.
That's it. And that's the next level. That's where I'm stepping into. That's just what I realized, because I understand, again, dollar for hours is great. I mean, it works until you're done with it. And so it doesn't mean that I'm not going to see more people. It just means that I'm going to take this to the next level. And that is the teaching. That's the training, because, almost a decade into this thing, and I've learned from some of the best. I mean, I've traveled all over the country, learning from incredible people, and not just having the information. Here's my little, secret things that I've learned. I've put it to use with the clients. And now with that, like you said, what happens when all of a sudden now you start turning these things on? And that's what I'm really excited about.
It also gives, and this is the positioning that people need to look at, the sequencing of this conversation. Mm-hmm. And let's go back to trading, for example, which would be, and admittedly, I moved entirely over to mutual funds. Otherwise, I will stare at streaming numbers all day.
Yeah, that's another part of the thing. Like, how do I get you to walk away from the monitor?
Yeah. I'm like, once a month, it gets funded. Cool. I'll look at it in 20 years.
And for some people, yes, that's exactly what they need to do.
Yeah. No, I'm like, I am used to tracking numbers. I'm used to tracking, membership. Yes, I will look at programs sometimes and go, who's actually participating, and reach out to the one who seemed to have dropped off for a reason to go, hey, let's just connect for a quick, I'll randomly call people and be like, hey, you watched the first 3 modules, then you kind of fell off. I mean, you're still paying for this thing. What's the biggest need in your business? Cool. Let me make you a 5-minute onboarding video with Loom to just send you a quick walkthrough to say, hey, go here and do this. That sort of maintenance of something to make sure, as you said, people are getting the results.
Right.
We have to become, and this is my internal language, I think I got this from Richard Cole, horny for the numbers. There's a need for that. Where were we going with this? It was deeply profound.
I think you were just looking for that line.
Yeah, I just want to say that. I'm sure I said it at episode 100 when he interviewed me.
That's right.
No, but to find the passion for, this is where we want to be. This is the systematic approach. Yeah. Where now, okay, so here's this tiny investment that I made last year on a whim, and holy cow, it just exploded. And I took off my initial investment, took off enough to be happy with the gain, but to use the gambling term, it's now something that I'm playing with the house's money.
And that's a fundamental belief people have too. And that's why a lot of folks will give back the money to the market, because they think, oh, it's just the market's money, right? My profit is the market's money. But if you lose, it's kind of a different conversation.
Right.
And so how do we begin to shape that and create that? And that is that mentality.
A wise man.
I'm not going to sit here and say I'm the greatest trader in the world, but I will say that when it comes to following my rules, I'm really good at it because that's how the training has to be.
Well, a wise man once said, you have to know when to hold him and you have to know when to fold him.
And there's the song.
It was a Wyclef Jean song featuring.
Oh, that's it.
Featuring Kenny Rogers.
I thought it was the Spice Girls.
But let's bring the same thought. They're getting back together, and I'm so excited. Let's bring back the same conversation, though, in terms of the growth of our business. And it's the willingness to begin to reinvest now. That, okay, let's get responsible for this. And one of the equations that pops up is when I was running ads for Virginia Hypnosis. And Nathan, I was at a point where the business was all smooth sailing, bringing in a full load of clients. However, and this is where advertising, this is where the marketing comes in, I became passionate working with a very specific clientele.
Yeah.
And so the advertising dollars, Ryan Dice from Digital Marketer talks about this, and I'm sure I've quoted it here before. You want to have rice for dinner. This is easy. Dig up your backyard and plant it and wait. No, you go to the store and you buy the rice.
Right.
So the metaphor is, in terms of advertising dollars, marketing dollars, if there's a specific audience that I want to be in front of, I can spend the money and I can get my message in front of those people ridiculously quickly. So to do it in that respect, in terms of working with the people that we know we get the greatest results for, the equation I used for Virginia Hypnosis was, okay, so I'd bring in about 15 to 20 new clients a month in packages. And that means I need to be willing to reinvest the full income of 2 clients to fund the rest of the month with the people that I know I get the greatest results with. The same as I'll take.
I like that.
This is where he's writing down. If it's a training and we max out Work Smart Hypnosis live and online with 36 people now, we are willing to invest the full income of 2 or 3 students to fill the rest of the event. And here's the key phrase, with the right people.
Yep. Yep.
So by looking at it that way, it's not and hear what this conversation was. This was not, let's boost this ad and see what happens. This was not, let's just pay to bring people to my homepage. This is targeted, this is specific, and this is something we can measure and improve upon over time.
Yeah. This is the person I want to work with. Yeah. I get that.
So then inside of this, kind of walk us through the day-to-day life of Fredericksburg Hypnosis now.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, with it's so bad.
Can I paraphrase what you're now having the internal dialogue of?
I'm
really not working hard right now, and these people keep coming in.
What's that?
I was going to paraphrase what you were just about to think there, which is that, I'm really not working that hard right now to keep this thing going, and these people are just coming in and they're getting great results.
Yeah.
Hey, that's working smart.
Yeah.
We should do something with that.
I should do something with that. I'm going to write that, do something.
Well, here's the question I want to ask you, which is, let's rewind it back when you had to hustle. Let's rewind it back when you had to really work to bring those people in. What's different now as these people are calling you and they've now discovered the world that you've created?
I'm not spending as much time having to explain hypnosis or explain what's going to happen from this, because they're getting that from other people. I don't know how to explain it. It's almost like they're a warm lead, because one of the things that you taught was let them get to know you on the website, right? So I have videos on almost every single page on the website that is talking about the thing that I get to work with. And then there's testimonial videos from just about every single page. And then there's tons, I know for sure, of the reviews that are on the pages as well. So they're not coming to me with this, okay, is this guy going to be swinging a watch or doing some kind of weird stuff? I want to be clear, like, I don't do that stuff. Like, that's about the furthest thing when it comes to who I am as a person and as a hypnotist. And then the other side of it too, and this is what was really exciting last month, was the referrals that are coming in. Clients that are referring people to me, other hypnotists that are referring people to me, other doctors and physicians and things. And again, I know that you taught those things, and I'm speaking for a lot of the people who join your program who said, that sounds great, but I'm not going to do it. that was all of the referrals that you sent to the doctors, the paper, hey, I'm seeing your client for this, and this is what I do. I haven't done that, but all of a sudden I got doctors in the area that are referring people to me. And I think that so much of that is based off of, like I said earlier, get good results, get really good at helping people to resolve their issue, and make sure that at least it's out there so people can see it in some regard. And over time, that's what's going to come in.
Well, I tell you a moment that maybe your ears were burning a couple of months ago. And to quote The Simpsons, it's because you wanted to see inside and you lit a Q-tip. Now, I had someone reach out to me. You knew this was going to go this direction. No, I had someone reach out. And I say this not to put it down, but they had reached out and they said, I'm just not getting the results. I'm just not filling my calendar. I've done everything you taught me. And I had to say, well, great, let's switch over from a phone call to Zoom and let's look at your website. Okay, there's no videos. Okay, here's this whole module on how to get reviews, and I don't even see a Google My Business page that exists. I don't see any presence. So you say you've been doing everything. What have you been doing? And it was, well, I went to this one networking event, and I didn't really like that group. So what'd you do next? So it's like, and I honestly, Nathan, I pulled up your website, and I just said, not to say, there's something that Scott Sandland said a while ago, and I have to tell the inside joke behind this one. It was and we had Juan Acosta on this program talking about the dental summit he did, where he introduced hypnosis to a lot of people. And Scott put up this great message around how I'm really impressed by what Juan is doing. I'm not going to say I'm proud, because Juan was one of my students. And by saying I'm proud, that's me saying, look what I helped him to do. And this is where I now say to Scott when he's doing things now with Sierra Node, but you know what? I'm really Juan Accosted by you. I need to make sure these guys hear this episode. No, but I should have to say, this is impressive what Nathan has done because he's made it his own. He's made these things actually happen, and he didn't fall into excuses. And I just loaded up your site here on my phone. Could you talk about something that you are... Hello. Something you are doing... Sound familiar. That happens to me all the time. It's like my voice just chimes in and...
Well, and that's the thing too with radio is like, so on the air, my name is Mike Kelly. And every once in a while I'll have that moment where people are like, hey, Mike, when I'm out in public and I'm...
Who?
Oh.
He also owned a bunch of restaurants in North Carolina. You're great.
Right, yeah.
No, you have an exceptional number of video there it is again. Video testimonials. Can you talk about some of your method of how you get those?
Well, when you have that client that is just bubbling over, right? Like they've had the breakthrough or whatever it might be, just ask them in that moment. And I'll use my cell phone and I'll just say, hey, would it be okay with you if I could just do a quick video about your experience? And some people will say yes, and some people will say no, and you just go with it. It's you have not because you ask not. Ask.
Yeah.
The worst they can say is no.
If you had to give a rough number, like what percentage have said yes?
Oh, I would say much smaller. And part of that is because I already have a lot of those videos up there. And so I would say out of the majority of people who I've asked, 60, 70, 80% of it.
Yeah.
I mean, because the rapport is so good. Mm-hmm. And if it's that thing, first of all, I'll tell you, I'm not going to make you look bad. I'll let you watch it. If you don't like it, I won't use it. And just having that honesty with somebody right away, I mean, it's a great way to give that assurance.
There's also a bit of a beautiful internal dialogue that you're planting, which is that people are now, and again, 2 years without marketing, without advertising, I don't want to say coasting on fumes, but really riding the moment. There's the podcast title name. Episode 351, Nathan Gist is coasting on fumes. No.
Just enough.
Just enough.
But that's really, though, when I get those breakout months and I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow. I mean, November, it looks like it's first 2 weeks are booked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the result of having done the work and having built the system. So now the machine is running for you, which also gives you a bit of time freedom to start to build new things out. What I was hinting at earlier is the fact that as they're discovering you, they're seeing these videos of people telling their story, which draws that person to now start to tell themselves the story. Not that, oh, this guy's going to make me do that. It's instead, oh, this is what people do who get results with Nathan.
Yeah.
So then when it's an ask, people lean in for education, they lean back from sales, and we're always selling, even if it's that's the chair you're going to sit in, even if it's here's the day I can work with you. So by pre-selling the fact that people get results with me and they leave me video testimonials. So the reality is you just need one to get up and running.
You really
right?
do. You really do. I mean, I think we make it so much more difficult than it is. And you being in the videos on your website is one of the most important things you can possibly do. And I learned that from radio as well, right? Like I've been doing this for so long, and there are people who come to see us at events, or they stop by the station or a phone call or whatever. And they're like, they know so much about you already. They feel like I've been best friends with them for years, and I've never met them before. And if you have almost that same message on the website where you're just real with them, I mean, let them know how you're feeling. Make a little mistake in the video or whatever. You don't just, this is me reading my teleprompter and everything. Like, they realize you're a real person, and listen, we're going to work through this thing together. And I think that's one of the things people need to know too. I'm not doing something to you. I'm working with you to break through this thing or to get the result that you're looking for, and so that you can get out there and live your life. And as long as they understand that coming into the conversation, that's a really great thing.
Yeah. And we're coming up on time here. I've got a few more things I want to ask you before we bring this in for a close. Let's go back to the origin story all the way up to now with here's the clients, here's the results, here's the reviews, here's the, outcomes you've created, the business you've clearly built. Is there a different perception of what is hypnosis and how it works that you have now versus what you, let's say, not necessarily what you assumed it to be before you really got into it, but let's say the difference between year one seeing clients versus now?
Yeah, in all sincerity, like hypnosis, even though you go through the training, even though you read the books and you do all these different things, it still feels like it's some kind of superpower. It feels like you are doing something, right, to elicit something out of somebody. Now, part of that, yes, but I've told my clients I feel like I'm an unhypnotist, where they're already doing hypnosis. I'm helping them to, one, create an awareness of their thinking, right? I'm thinking more about the neuroscience of this stuff and how it works, less than, it's just, I know it sounds so woo-woo. It felt like a magical thing, because I remember watching you do a session with somebody, and it was all of a sudden they were seeing a clock that wasn't there in the room or whatever it was. It was this positive hallucination. I'm sitting there like, what is that? Like, how is this stuff happening? And so when I was working with people, it becomes less of this thing and more of this process that I get to gratefully walk through with somebody as they begin to unlock those little doors, those little conversations, those reasons, those stories, excuses that they've set up in their mind to begin to, it's coming from them. I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, that's where the power is. It's in the person that you're with. Just help them get out of their own way.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. No, I love that. It's the moment where the client pointed his finger at me and he said, well, you're just going to persuade me today. And I held up all the notes I had been taking to say, well, yeah, and I'm going to take everything you've already been telling me that you've clearly already been telling yourself for like 10 years, but I'm going to feed it back to you in a way so this time it actually sticks.
That's it.
And he goes,
that's it.
That makes a lot of sense. I go, I know, right?
Yeah. I remember even doing a stage show one time, and this was not one of the shows that went well at all. This was like either my first or second show. And
luckily it was one of the ones I sent you on.
No, that one I knocked out of the park, which I felt great.
That's
That was a fun one. That's also the one. That's also the one that I sent you the message, and I said, I can't remember what the text was. It's like, how big does the fire have to be before it's endangerment or something like that? And you text me back, and you're like, for real?
We help people. Sorry, you were.
That's right. But I remember this time where I'm trying to do this instant induction with this person, and I realized that I didn't tell them what to do when I did the induction, right? Your eyes will close down, your head will drop down, and you'll be in this nice, comfortable, relaxed place. And I remember going up to do the induction, and I'm like, sleep. And the person, their hand drops, and they just look at me with those eyes like, what, like they're about to knock me out or something. And I realized that because that there's not a superpower that does that. It's suggestion, like you're talking about, that creates that space for them to get whatever the result is, whether it's that comedy bit inside the show or that breakthrough in their life. They need to know that next step.
Nice. For anybody out there who's kind of, let's say, maybe where you were when it was just a curiosity and looking at moving forward, what advice would you give to them?
It is one of the most gratifying things you can possibly do. Now, you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to bust butt, right? You're going to have to do work, and you're going to have to do things that make you very uncomfortable at certain times, right? If you got stage fright, if you're worried and you're nervous and all of those different things, all of that is a story. And I'll give you my card. Go see a hypnotist to help work through those things. But I'm going to tell you something. If you want to help people, this is a way to do it in a most profound way. It is an extraordinary gift to be able to do. And it takes a lot of work, but it's well worth it. One thing that I really recommend is that the meetup group early on. And Jason, this is one of the things that I got from you, where you were having these meetup groups, and you said one of the reasons for that isn't just because it harnesses your skill and works your skill, but also because you got a room full of people with their hands up that I'm interested. And so in the very beginning, I would have meetup groups, and I call it Hypno Curious or something like that, where I would just have people come in that wanted to learn and understand a little bit about hypnosis. But in the beginning, I got majority of my clients from that group. And if I had 20 people in there, but one person signs up or 2 people signs up, now all of a sudden for somebody who's brand new to a business, you got clientele coming in. and they've already seen the proof of what's possible and understand more about what hypnosis is. So meetups, great way to get started.
Really, just congratulations for what you've built, in terms of helping people, in terms of serving your community, in terms of even creating the balance, the family dynamic, the income. That's why I wanted to share this with you and have you on here for not only episode 350. We haven't done a two-parter in 300 episodes, buddy.
Hey.
I know, right? But to do a little bit longer to kind of bring people into your world. And thank you for coming on here and sharing that story. Jason Linett here once again, and as always, thank you so much for interacting with this program, leaving your reviews online, and using this program as an ongoing resource in your conversations around the internet, talking about how we can all improve the hypnotic industry. So head over to the show notes at worksmarthypnosis.com/351. That's where you can find the details about how to get in contact with Nathan if you'd like to, how to send him a nice, polite message as well. And while you're on the web, check out worksmarthypnosislive.com. You'll see that half of our attendees are people who are brand new to hypnosis, and likewise the other half are already trained working professionals looking to refine what they're doing and get even more consistent results. Find the details at worksmarthypnosislive.com. And there's really no reason to have to struggle in terms of getting your hypnotic business up and running. Use frameworks that have been proven to work and find the community that's there to support you and grow. Check that out, hypnoticbusinesssystems.com. Thanks for listening. See you all soon.
Thanks for listening to the Work Smart Hypnosis podcast at worksmarthypnosis.com.
Hey there, it's Jason, and I want you to be one of the first to find out as we upload amazing new content. So do this right now. Click the subscribe button right here on this video. That's going to link you to our YouTube channel here, and you will be the first to find out as new resources and downloads are made available. Do it now.